Hello, welcome to Moral Relatives.
Here we are, back again for another fun time. So last week I think we said that we wanted to kind of talk about some current events. And just setting up, you missed a really good half an hour of bantering back and forth about some of the issues that I hope we might talk about today. I hope that... I want to press this button here. I hope that we can engage in some good conversation, maybe a little listening to each other. So we'll see how that goes. You're laughing already. You don't think that's going to happen?
No.
All right, fair enough. So here, let me give you some what I did to try to understand this a little bit. Would that be okay with me to say that? So using the social media that I had, I just asked my friends a question, and I said, respond if you want, don't respond, whatever. And I asked them the question, what is going on in the world today that is allowing our moral compass to be challenged? What's going on in the world today that kind of allows our moral compass to be challenged? What's the moral issue today that is probably the most important to you? Now, having said that, I think I have to have like a little caveat. And the caveat is that people who are my social media friends are probably like-minded to me. That probably sits on the more liberal side of the world than the conservative side of the world. So I would love if someone on the conservative side of the world would do the same thing, because I want to see what answers they would come up with, and if it would be the same. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it started. And so once I got the results, I thought there was a common thread. I just couldn't wrap my head around what the common thread was. So I threw it into an AI kind of chat GPT thing. I just threw all those words in there and said, what's the common thread here? And it kind of spit something out to me that kind of helped me make sense. So I sent all that to Charlie over there. And then he said, you know what you said?
Could you un-AI that for me and make it human language?
So I said to him, interesting, when he actually texted me that, I said, I'm actually doing that right now. I'm kind of looking through what the chat GPT thing said and trying to find questions from it. So that's what we did. So can I read what most people said first? All right. So here are the responses that came from people. And these are just phrases with a comma after them, no explanation. Lack of kindness. Helping others is now an imposition. Political corruption. Accountability. Truth and the difficulty of knowing what is true. Can we all have our own truth? Is healthcare a human right? Data privacy and surveillance of citizens. When did we become so mean? Intolerance at the expense of others. Lack of expectations of integrity. Systemic poverty and that can cause human trafficking. AI taking over our lives. That was kind of interesting that I used AI after that. But what happened to the words on the Statue of Liberty? Give me your tired, the poor, the huddled masses, and the last one is refugees. So, having heard that, what do you think? What do you think is like the common thread? Did I send you the common thread?
Oh no, you didn't.
Okay. The common thread that this came up with was as follows. Lack of kindness, political corruption, data privacy, AI, all point towards a loss of empathy, integrity, and collective accountability. So I wrapped my head around that word empathy. What has happened to empathy? Why can't we be nicer to other people, be empathetic?
I was going to say, how would you define empathy?
Empathy is, I think empathy is that concern for someone else. Taking care of myself And I think that was one of the questions you kind of threw back at me. I wrote down some of the things that you said. And one of the things that you said is, as a nation, are we accountable to each other? And and that gets back to that Christian ethic called "Am I my brother's keeper?" And I think the answer to that is yes. We are our brother's keeper. I think that's what empathy kind of leans towards. And all those things that I mentioned I think are a lack of that.
And I would add that I think keeper is a wrong word entirely, and I think you should be, empathetic to your brother. I would define empathy as, it's the process of you putting yourself in the situation of others. There's this thing I don't think people really realize, that like every human is just having everything you feel about how crazy your life is and your perspective, and why do I think this, how do I feel that, everybody's having that exact same phenomenon happening. And
but do you think that's because of what's going on in the world today?
No, that's whatever is happening in whatever world. That's just the state of us. Is we're, there's this perplexing reality that we have to deal with, and it's not just yours. Like everybody has, like the other characters in your world aren't just characters; they're their own story, and like that whole phenomenon, I feel like is really just not present in everyday interactions.
Yeah, but I think my question is, how come it's gotten so so messed up? And what I mean by messed up is I'm okay with that word keeper, brother's keeper, because I don't mean that as a master slave thing. I mean that as a Christian, and as a Christian, my brother's keeper means that I need to help. I need to not ignore people that need help. Like for instance, my church just handed out these little bags and say, hey, could you fill these bags for Thanksgiving time? It had specific things on it. And I took one of those bags, and I'm going to do that. And it's going to cost me X amount of dollars, but it doesn't matter because I'm my brother's keeper. I need to do that kind of thing. Simple. I do get a little frustrated that we only collect food like at Thanksgiving and Christmas when people are hungry all the time. But that's a different issue, in terms of that. That's what I mean by keeper. I have some sense of responsibility towards other people.
Well, in that, I think keeper kind of has a deeper meaning, because in that kind of keep giving a man a fish system, he has to keep coming to you for a fish, and that's where the keeper comes in. We gotta be more facilitators. Be your brother's facilitator.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but studies have shown that, like for instance, young people can't even learn if they're hungry, right? They come to school hungry, so now everyone has free breakfast, which I have an opinion about, but that's a different topic someday. But if you don't feed them, they won't be able to learn, so they'll never be able to take care of themselves. Any people who are truly, truly hungry cannot take care of themselves. They can't become part of society. They get caught up in that suffering, I think.
Well, then how do you feel about free breakfast?
I think that everybody should eat, okay? Mm-hmm. My problem with free breakfast is I don't like how it takes the responsibilities off the parents. I would seriously prefer that we would come up with some sort of system where we allow the parents to go to like a co-op and get food and then feed their kids. The problem is in our society, since we're lacking empathy, there's parents out there that
are working 3 jobs.
No, or don't eat. No, I'm talking about the one
don't have time to do that.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's certainly part of it. But I think there's also parents out there that would rather spend the money on getting something done for themselves than taking care of their kids. We can't trust them to do the right thing.
We can't trust parents.
Yeah, we cannot trust
to raise their kids.
We cannot. Yes, that is true.
What?
It's just a reality. I'll give you an example. I was getting gas at a gas station, and it's one of those gas stations that has Slurpees, You get drinks inside, and this young lady comes out, young lady in a car, and she's got this big gigantic Slurpee kind of drink, and she's talking to the other lady who's in the car, who's young like herself, and says, "Hey, you can get this with what do you call it, WIC? The subsidized
Okay.
debit thing. You can get this in WIC. Why don't you go get yourself one?" And there's like 3 kids in the back seat with no shoes on, no shirts on, not even worrying about whether they need a drink or not. They just said, "Look what I can do with this money that the government give me. I can go and get myself a Slurpee." And so, yeah, I have a problem with parents who do not take care of their kids.
Okay, well, I would zoom out from that situation and be like, why is the 64-ounce drink only 1 more cent than the 32-ounce drink, yet the 8-ounce drink is the same price as the 32-ounce drink?
Because they want
There's also, why is soda the thing that's on WIC and not vegetables,
Well, all that stuff is on WIC.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But like, why are things that are not necessities included in that? And then there's also I think our last episode was about judging others. So
yeah, okay, but I know it sounds like that I'm judging people, but you asked the question that there are parents who don't take care of their kids, and to me, that's an example of that.
I think that's crazy. I think as any animal's instinct, don't even need human consciousness to have the capacity to take care of your own child.
Unless, of course, you have no empathy.
Or you've been corrupted.
How corrupted? How are they corrupted?
Well, whatever experience that the world has put on them is the factor that's not letting them raise their kids. It's not their actual inability to. And I think with, redirection, teaching men to fish rather than keeping men coming for fish.
But you got to feed them first.
Well, they got to know what fish tastes like, but then they got to realize that, not only do I like this, I can go get it. I don't even need you every time I want it.
Okay, but the point is,
it's facilitating people. I think that's the root of most things that are not facilitating people to have mobility.
In asking that question of all my friends, the common thread that came up when I put it into that ChatGPT was lack of empathy. So our culture is showing a lack of empathy. So that's what these parents are learning from watching TV or, just being part of society. Mm-hmm. That person doesn't care, so why should I care? Kind of attitude. So that person doesn't care about, this person, that person, the other person. Why should I even care about my kids? I think it becomes very easy for them to get like that. I agree with you that the first instinct of a parent, whether it's, an animal or a human, mm-hmm. is to take care of them. I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't think...
I was even watching... Some video came up on my algorithm earlier, and it was just a bunch of series of dogs interacting to prevent babies from getting hurt or saving. Even a dog knows instinctually how to protect a child.
Okay, but the problem is that us humans have this thing called free will, right? So we get into a funk where we think that. It's got to be about us. If I don't take care of myself, then I'm not going to get any. And if I don't get any, I'm not going to be as good as that person over there.
I think you're talking about the spell of consumerism.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of it.
It's the trance that we're all under, that we think we need this thing. But when we start teaching people that they don't need this thing, they can go get this thing.
Okay, but the problem is
and it's even more beyond objects and
some people don't even want to learn. Some people don't want and that's kind of what my problem is with the free breakfast thing.
Well, do we keep facilitating ways that they can get away with not learning?
Yes.
I think that might be the issue.
Absolutely, but in the same
taking
sense,
back responsibility of yourself is actually not a burden, but a freedom.
Yeah, but people don't choose to do that because it's the easier path is to not pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's to let someone else help you get pulled up by their bootstraps. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not.
It's not. I mean, it's not easier though, because then when the person's not there to pull you up, then you're even worse off.
Yeah, but then they don't worry about tomorrow. They worry about today. They don't. They don't. They're not future seekers. They're not putting money in the bank and saying, I got to save this for a rainy day, right? I don't think people think like that. Unfortunately, I mean, I think people are taught to think like that and can think like that.
But why are they taught to not think like that too?
Why I don't know. I'm not sure they're taught to not think like that.
They're not taught to consume and just
But I think they are
not worry about the.
I think they are taught to consume.
Go ahead and buy the thing, and don't worry about the plastic wrap. The earth will be there for your grandkids, maybe.
The other thing that I worry about is
the world we live in.
The other thing I worry about is I was driving one time in kind of country roads. I think we were in South Carolina, and we're driving through these country roads. We were going from one place to another place, and my wife said, "Let's not take the highway. Let's go all these back roads," which was like a lot of back roads. But we would drive down these back roads, and all of a sudden, there's a Dollar Tree, or a Family Dollar, and I started saying to myself, "Why the heck are all these things?
Yeah, why do
in the middle of nowhere?
Why are these city planners facilitating places like Family Dollars in these places and not approving for grocery stores?
Because that's where the people shop.
No, it's where the people shop because that's where they can walk to because they don't have a car because it's the one in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Why is that one in the neighborhood instead of the Aldi?
That's us facilitating them, and that's a whole corporate thing. I get that, right?
But it's bigger than corporate. It's like, that's the city planner deciding those things. That's,
Okay, but the flip side of that coin is if there's nothing, then they don't eat. They don't have any. They don't have any access.
Right. So we keep making them come get some fish from us.
Right. So what's your solution to that then? You're pie in the sky here saying, well, we'll just teach them to be good.
Well, I think...
Tell me how you teach someone to be good or right or just or empathetic.
Well, I think our natural state is closer to good than it is bad. So it's about doing no harm, like we learned last week. The less harm we're actually imposing on others because we think we're helping them, the more freedom they have to actually help themselves.
Okay, so
most people would like to help themselves if the path was not obscured.
So how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we actually...
Well, we call out corruption and stop endorsing it, wherever we see it, because it's a lot of places.
Well, that's what I think. That's what I think these people responded to me. Political corruption, accountability, truth and difficulty of knowing what's true. I think these people hit the nail on the head, but as far as I'm concerned, about what's going on in the world, because they named all these things that are holding people back. But how do we change that system?
We stop endorsing it.
Okay, that's easy to say, but show me how you do it. Don't just say...
Martin Luther King showed you how to boycott.
Okay, so...
Stop giving them what they want, which is money and your attention. So if they want your attention, stop giving them your attention. If they want your money, stop giving them your money. Put it where it's going to be valued.
So they have to organize.
Where it's going to facilitate somebody to lift themselves up rather than be stuck in the system more.
So they have to organize, you're saying? Right?
No, well...
Dr. King made them organize, right?
I think what's happening is rather than... going to the obvious presented to you organization, go create one with your community. You know what I mean? Like, instead of looking for a umbrella answer, just start, fixing where you see.
The struggle I have with that coming out of your mouth is that we're not set up to live in communities like that anymore.
Why weren't we set up that way?
That's
who has set us up over the past decades to present this situation? These are the questions I ask.
That's a different question. That's a different...
No, I think that's what we're talking about, though. That's where we stop the problems, is where they start. You go up the river to see who's throwing babies in the river
Got it.
rather than pull baby by baby out the
But
river.
you still got to pull baby by baby out the river.
Well,
you
that
can't
needs-
stop doing that.
I don't disagree with that, but that's not the whole solution.
No, but see,
And it's not the long-term solution.
one of the things I've learned about justice and systemic change is that it's really messy. Nobody wants to mess with it.
It's going to be inconvenient too. Like the convenience that these people are providing is the thing that's letting them keep going, is that we're like, oh, but it is convenient. Once we live in the inconvenience for a little while, then that power gets taken away and we can start being more convenient. But it will be ugly and gross and hard for a long time.
I don't think
There has to be a great depression after you break up all the monopolies.
I think people get more. I think their psyche gets more. They wallow in self-pity more than picking themselves up and doing something about it. It's few and far between, I think, that will pick themselves up and do something about it and get to a point where they say, I need to change. I need to do something different.
Yeah, but rather than being like, oh, it's few and far between, why don't we be like, you could do it. Start pulling those people who are few and far between out.
But okay,
Stop being like, bummer.
So let's say we're on the other side of that. We're successful, if that's the right word to use. So what we got going on is working for us, and we're doing pretty good. How do we help our neighbor? How do we help them kind of have the same opportunities that we've had?
I mean, you could share your experiences. You could point them in the right direction.
So do you think education's a part of that?
I think.
Do we need schools?
I mean, this is a weird. I don't think school is a very good idea if you want to have thinkers.
Well, no, that's not.
I think it's great for armies.
No, that's not true, because one of the things I said to my
Prussia.
But one of the things I said to my kids when we were, I said, I had a lot of opinions and they had a lot of opinions, and I wasn't trying them. I said to them, I actually said to them, and I'm finding out some of my kids that I taught are watching these podcasts, and they will click, yes, he did that. I hope, because I did do that. I said, you don't have to believe what I believe what you believe, but I'm going to tell you what I believe, and now you make up your mind. I want you to think. I want you to walk away from here at least questioning something and think. Right?
I think you came from a unique position, though, being a religion teacher in a religion school versus somebody who has to get people to pass the, I
know that's a whole
LSAT or whatever the
thing is. Yeah, that's a whole, that's a whole other question about our education society.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Is education good? Well, not that kind.
Not that kind. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. All right, one of the other questions you came up with was. Where was it? Okay, it's the first one. You talked about polarization of groups of people, polarization of interests, right? Polarization. Then you said, what do you think about polarization? So I guess we can polarize people and have a bunch of people, all thinking they have to do the same thing, or we can polarize interests, saying you got to be like this, you got to be like this. This is the way to be.
Well, isn't it interesting that polarize kind of means either to bring everybody in one direction or to separate direction? Word magic.
So what do you think of polarization then? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think there's the trick is a pole, and like I've said this before on here, but one end of the pole and the other end of the pole, it's the same stick. And if you think politically, like this side of the spectrum and this side of the spectrum, the further you get to fascism and the further you get to communism, the way they're run is exactly the same. So I don't understand why they're opposites.
Well, I think because of the results of them prove them to be opposites.
What are the results? Pretty similar in both cases.
Similar, yeah, but not alike. I'd be better off to look at a Democrat Republican instead of communist fascist. The Democrats have certain things that certain lens they look through.
Well, I was talking about the poles of politics.
Well, that's what it is.
So.
That those two things are poles today, aren't they? They don't
Well,
even talk
but
to each other.
Democrat. Well, that's what I'm saying. Democrat and Republican are actually very close together, and then there's only one kind of centrist middle ground between them.
Which is,
well, there's the centrist, which is like, you know, either libertarian or like independent party,
right?
but like they're not that far apart from each other. Whereas like fascism and communism are kind of the ends of it,
Right.
which is why I mentioned that.
Okay. So, but a fascist will look through a certain lens, and a communist will look through a certain lens.
But ultimately, it's the state is in control of everything and everybody, so it's the same thing.
So
And I don't think people really realize that.
But see, that gets, you know, you've wrapped myself right back to the question that I asked these people. You know, what's going on in the world that is, and you know, everything that they, I think that everything that they have, well, what's going on in our world today is we're hearing so much from the state, from the government. Everything seems to be, people are stressed out about what's going on in terms, I'm talking about a United Statesian, being a United Statesian. I'm not talking like a worldview right now. I'm just talking about being a United Statesian. So, you know, from a United Statesian's point of view, you know, people go to bed angry at one side or the other because the poles are so different than each other, right? And I don't think in my lifetime, I can't remember ever people worrying so much. You know, it used to be like everyone say, well, I want my guy, or I want my guy, or I want my girl, or I want my girl. And then once it happened, I said, oh, okay, I lost, or oh, okay, I won. But now that doesn't happen anymore. Now it's like, you know, it's a whole us against them. And I think that's what these people have picked up when they say things, you know, things like, you know, intolerance at the expense of others. You know?
Well, it sounds like they're not practicing non-attachment.
Well, but this is the world they live in right now. This is where they are. This is where they live in.
Well,
right, and
this is where they could be.
Okay, so you know, my goal in this whole thing was to tie it into morality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'd read a couple of things that I thought were super interesting about that. One of them was a scripture verse that I want to kind of quote. All right. This comes from a thing called Daily Meditations from the Center for Action. It's an organization run by Father Richard Rohr, and he says about this situation that this is a kairos moment, a time of crisis and opportunity. A time of crisis and opportunity.
Kairos?
Yes. All right.
How do you spell that?
Kairos. Okay. So then he goes, in biblical terms, it is a moment when foundations of injustice are exposed. So what do we need? Prophetic voices who are calling for a change. Okay, wait, let me finish. All right. Movements for justice that take root. And so then the scripture verse that he goes to is Luke 4:14. And this verse is known as Jesus' first sermon when he first came out, delivered in his hometown of Nazareth. And he said this, quote, Luke 4, I said 14, Luke 4, 18 to 19. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set those who are oppressed, to proclaim a year of the Lord's favor. Jesus' first sermon was about, let's worry about the poor, the oppressed. Let's get to them. Let's help them understand. Let's help them get to another level. That's our job as Christians, right? So a lot of these so-called Christian nationalists that are floating around, you know, they're just like kumbaya in it, and you know, just, you know, Jesus is the way, but don't make me deal with anybody else because, you know, Jesus is the way, you know. So
That doesn't make any sense though, because if Jesus is the way, isn't that the way you do it?
but that's the point. The point
What
is
do you mean?
they stop. They stop. They get to a point where they say, you know,
How do they stop?
by no action, all words and no action, right? It's all about you know, look at me, here I am, you know, praising God, singing all the songs, raising my hands at the right time, clapping, but I'm not leaving. I'm not helping anybody else. I'm not, you know, going out like Jesus said in that Luke verse to proclaim release of captive, recovery of sight to the blind, bring goodness to the poor. They're not doing any of that, right? And I think that's what's, you know, from a moral standpoint, that's what's polarizing our society to not be in a good place.
I guess my question is, how are they hearing the Bible every week and getting duped so hard in the other direction of not acting like that?
Because
Why do you think that is?
How
does that come about?
I think it happens because, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't appreciate what I say, but you know, I really truthfully think it's the truth. There's a lot of church attainment. Church attainment.
What does that mean?
Entertainment. It's all entertainment.
okay.
Lights, cameras, really cool music, which I think is great, but that's all it is. It's all fluff. There's no, like, you know, Jesus dying on the cross for me and for that guy over there and for that guy over there and for that person over there, right? There's none of that. There's just all this fluff. You know, it's all about Christmas and not so much about Good Friday. And I think it's all a bunch of church attainment. And it's good. It feels good. They feel good. That's why they like it. That's why they're attracted to it. You know, because it doesn't come with any responsibility, right? And I think that has destroyed the morals of our country. Going back to the answers that the people gave me. Go ahead.
So much like, I don't know how to explain this, but if you want to send your message to many different groups, but the same message, you just find different ways to say it to the different groups. So I think what you're describing in that kind of church culture of the fluffy entertainment side of it isn't that different from like the EDM festivals in the forest. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of like trance going on.
Yeah, I think it is. You know.
So which is it invalid to say that trance, like that dance music in the forest is not church, or are we saying that
I think
church is
it depends
as silly as dancing in the forest?
It depends what you want to do with that dancing in the forest. You know what I mean? If that dancing in the forest brings you out of the forest to recognize others as important as part of the system,
as clapping the hands with your fellow congregation makes you. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
See how I did that? Okay, fun.
Okay, but you know
advocating for the other.
You know that I've said to a lot of people over the years that I'm teaching is, you know, I don't think I ever did this here, but I'll do it now if I didn't. I asked people. I was talking to a whole group of people, a lot of people, like 500 people, at a conference that I was like doing a keynote speaking at, and I said to them, that was a like a little plug for myself, but
we'll put the clip here.
Yes, contact me at this number. So I'm speaking, and I said to them, I said, what's the most important symbol in the church? You know, and like, boom, got all these symbols. You know, the cross, the tabernacle, the Stations of the Cross, the altar, the sanctuary, the this, the that. But
it's not the monad.
What's the monad? Help me. What's that?
It's like a circle with a dot in the
No,
middle.
no, not the monad.
Oh, well,
No. The most important symbol in the church is the exit sign. Because whatever you do in there, if you're just doing it in there and you don't take it outside the door, it's worthless. The same is true with school. I would say to my students, I said, if you're going to learn here and just wallow in this learning and never go outside in the world and live it out there in the world, then you're wasting your time. Right? You don't just do it in here. You have to take it. You have to take it with you. So the exit sign is the most important symbol in lots of buildings. You know, if you're coming someplace to learn something, learn it and then do something with it.
yeah. I feel like that was kind of my point last week about church, though. Is like, or the last time because I was like, going to the place is fine, but just live your life like that.
See, but I think my argument was that in that same context was, but you got to go to the place. You know, you got to go to the place. Now, let me backtrack.
Got to check in.
Let me
clock in, punch in, punch
out. Not check in, not clock in. Go and be open to learn something new.
Yep.
Go and be open to learn. So let me backtrack a little bit. You know, about some of these churches that are church attainment. They might be really super successful if people go there, embrace it, engage in all that, and then do take it out. Those people got it.
It seems to be quite popular.
Yeah. Oh, it's very popular.
So
why?
Exactly.
Why? Tell me why it's popular. You think?
Why do I think it's popular? Because I think people have been kind of conditioned out of having this God filling that hole that's in all of us, and now that that isn't being pushed as much, and then this next generation is kind of resurging back to that. Oh, we could fill the hole with God, but now we're in this consumer culture where people are selling it rather than just
presenting it,
having
living
true
it.
faith.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Right? You know, people keep saying to us. I mean, even people in our government are saying things like, you know, our government today has brought people back to church. You know, and that might be great, unless they're just going back to church to go back to church and not to listen to the message and living that church out there in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to your dancing in the forest, go dance in the forest, but don't leave it in the forest, right? Take it with you and teach someone else to dance, right? It reminds me of the little kid's book I read to my granddaughter the other day, Giraffes Can't Dance. You ever read that little book, Giraffes Can't Dance?
No.
Okay, we got to look it up. It's about, you know, everyone telling the giraffe they can't dance. And the problem was the giraffe just didn't get the right music to dance to, right? And then at the end of the book, the giraffe can dance, right? That's the point. You know, don't let the what's in the building manipulate you so much that you don't realize that you have the power to go outside that building and do something about it.
Whatever building that is.
Yeah. Whether it's the forest, the building.
No, I mean
forest,
like whether it's your church or your.
But my argument,
other buildings you might be in.
My argument with you might
other
be
other camps you might be in.
My argument with you might be I think you have to do this in community. Mm-hmm. You can't do it by yourself. You can learn by yourself. You can grow by yourself. You can discover by yourself, right? But I think community allows you to banter that to bring us to the next level, right?
Well,
we don't have to agree with everything, but
that's like the moral part. That's like the human part of the equation. And then there's the other half where we're not really human, we're soul. And that part, us to God, doesn't, I don't think, need community. It's just that we're also here. We're that thing that can commune with God, whether there's other people or no other people. You could meditate or get into an ecstasy state and see God or whatever without people. But it's just like we're here, so how do we morally navigate that the best way?
All right.
So I think there's like, it's an answer to a different question. How do you get God and how do you live are different questions.
Okay, so I'm going to try to answer that with something else that I kind of read. And this was the same resource that I've used before, and this is what they were saying. There are two great strands of spiritual teachers. Two strands, two lines, basically. One strand is the priestly strand, and the other strand is the prophetic strand. Okay, so listen. The priestly strand. Wait. Well, the priestly strand, right, holds the system together by repeating the traditions, and that's important. We can't throw that out, right? But the prophetic are critical of the very systems that the priestly maintains, right? But now here's the big but, all right? If we have the priest and the prophet, we have a system that continues to refine itself from the inside, maybe even correcting itself. So you need both. You can't not have the priestly part where you know the traditions and the system and how we got here and how many other people have done this, but you also need the prophetic part to kind of push that envelope a little bit, out there.
It's like any creative thing. You learn the rules so that you can break them. Like you learn how to play standard guitar chords and blah, 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 but then you don't write those. That's not the thing that's coming out of you that's godly.
Yeah.
You just need that structure to understand how to express
but
the other thing.
So from a church/moral perspective, we have to have, every religion has these, I hate to call them rules, but at least dogma, right? That this is what we believe. Whether it's the Eightfold Path or the five characteristics of Islam or the Ten Commandments or the Beatitudes, whatever it is, we have that system. That comes from the priestly side, right? But now to make it our own comes from the prophetic side, right? We have to find that prophetic side. Let me give an example of one time. I
like to think of it as there's a side for profit and a side for profit.
As in different spellings? Okay, that's just negative think, as far as I'm concerned.
Have the tithes changed, or
did you say tithes changed?
Or times, whatever.
All right, no, listen. Everything takes capital to work, right? I would like for the world to be a barter system, but we're not. Our barter system it comes in dollars and cents.
Yeah, but like God's world, does that?
Okay, but even God's world came. I mean, like for instance, let's look at Jesus. For instance, someone kept the money bag, right? That was Judas Iscariot, and he was doing a bad job, and that's part of the whole descent of Judas Iscariot. That's a different story. I don't want to go down that road, but someone kept the bag. Someone kept the money so that they can keep doing their job, right? Even in Jesus' time, someone did that, right? The church doesn't collect money, to become rich. The church collects money to do its mission.
Owns the most land in the world.
And when it doesn't, but it doesn't own the land. The land is theirs to use, right? Like it does. They don't really own the land, right? But it's there for the. It's there. It's there for them to use.
Look it up.
To help people get closer to God. So I think it's BS when people say, all these churches are just in it for the profit or for the money. That's the electric company doesn't take prayers; they take money. So if the lights are going to be on for the church, then they need to pay their electric bill, right? And the people are the ones that choose to do that. Now they have to be good stewards with that money.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Isn't that what we pay taxes to ensure that we're good stewards as citizens? Do churches do the same?
To pay taxes? Well, no, the church pays taxes on their employees, but they don't have to pay taxes. But they don't have to pay taxes for things that they're going to use
like property tax or
they pay property tax because they use the fire department, they use the roads, they use the police department. What they don't pay taxes on is like when they buy paper, because and no nonprofit pays tax on that because they know that they're going to try to use that to make them,
Non-profit.
yes, to make them know better. That's a whole other system. If someone abuses it, if someone abuses the money thing, then shame on them, and they should be prosecuted.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like
100%.
That's what I mean,
Right?
though. I think.
But the church isn't in it for the money, man. I don't care. I don't care. People can say that all they want. I have a sister-in-law who believes that. There's look at the Vatican. They have so many relics and so many things, that beautiful artwork that they could sell. Well, they're not going to sell it because it's not. It's a museum. It's not. They don't own it to sell
It's a
it.
museum that no one can see.
Yeah, everyone can see it. You're welcome to go in there anytime you want. There's open door policy.
Parts.
Right? Yeah, because they want to protect it from false prophets. Do you think there's false prophets out there?
Yeah.
Speaking about prophets?
I agree, yeah.
So they want to protect it from false prophets. So, you can.
You know who I think
okay, that's 45 minutes.
There you go. Yeah, we can get into false prophets in the next, because I have a specific false prophet I'm thinking of that has been going around talking about how we should be aware of and worry that there might be an antichrist coming, yet he's probably it. So,
that he is the Antichrist.
well, not, I'm being hyperbolic, but yes.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk.
He's ushering in some uncool things.
You might have to send me that name of whoever that is. All right, so there's more of this to talk about, I think, because I think we just kind of hit the surface on what some of these responses that people shouted out to us. And is it a crisis that's going on in the world? I think it's something we need to keep talking about, but not this time.
It's not a crisis. Don't panic. Everybody's just like you.
It is a crisis. Panic.
Talk it out, guys. Give each other a group hug. We don't need to.
I'm all for group hugs.
Yeah.
But
stop telling people to panic.
Well, they don't need me to tell them to panic. They're probably panicking already.
I'm saying relax, guys. We've been here a long time. Things go up and down. Ultimately, what are you worried about?
Well, if we don't worry about it, we'll get fooled. So pay attention. That would be my final.
I agree with that.
Pay attention. All right. Hey, you see these new microphones?
Oh yeah.
We're only be able to get these new microphones because we have this GoFundMe source, and some of our cool friends have GoFunded us.
Thank you.
Yes, very much. Thank you. So if you want to GoFund us, that would be really cool, because now we have to buy these little things for these microphones, so we don't have to hold them, so they can go from here to here, and we won't have to hold them. So if you want to go to our GoFundMe page and help us out with that would be awesome. If you appreciate what we're doing, give us some feedback.
Make good choices.
All right. Thanks for today. God bless.
Right.